الله أكبر الله أكبر. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله. أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله. أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله. حي على الصلاة. حي على الصلاة. حي على الفلاح. حي على الفلاح. الله أكبر الله أكبر. لا إله إلا الله.
إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونستهديه ونؤمن به ونتوكل عليه ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبد الله ورسوله صلوات الله وسلامه عليه. يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون. يا أيها الناس اتقوا ربكم الذي خلقكم من نفس واحدة وخلق منها زوجها وبث منهما رجالا كثيرا ونساء واتقوا الله الذي تساءلون به والأرحام إن الله كان عليكم رقيبا. يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله وقولوا قولا سديدا يصلح لكم أعمالكم ويغفر لكم ذنوبكم ومن يطع الله ورسوله فقد فاز فوزا عظيما. أما بعد فإن أصدق الحديث كتاب الله وخير الهدي هدي محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم وشر الأمور محدثاتها وكل محدثة بدعة وكل بدعة ضلالة وكل ضلالة في النار. ثم أما بعد أوصيكم ونفسي أولا بتقوى الله عز وجل. Dear brothers and respected sisters, today's topic is about the situation we are living in. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in Surah Al-A'raf, وقال موسى لقومه استضعفوني وقال موسى لقومه استعينوا بالله واصبروا إن الأرض لله يورثها من يشاء من عباده والعاقبة للمتقين. Musa alayhi salam said to his people, استعينوا بالله. O people, seek help from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. واصبروا, and be patient. إن الأرض لله يورثها من يشاء من عباده. Verily this earth, the dominion of this kingdom, all belongs to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. إن الأرض لله يورثها من يشاء من عباده. Allah gives this inheritance of this earth to His servants, whomever He wills. وَالْعَاقِبَةُ لِلْمُتَّقِينَ. The end of the ayah says, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَالْعَاقِبَةُ لِلْمُتَّقِينَ. The end result belongs to the muttaqeen. The best end belongs to al-muttaqeen. We discuss about this ayah on our situation. When we see around the world, Muslims are oppressed, suffering, tortured and killed. And we see being humiliated. Our deen is being humiliated. And just let us go through the history. This did not begin just now. or few years ago. It was always the history since the first human being. It was thousands of years ago during the time of Musa alayhi salam. That is what we recited this ayah. People of Bani Israel, people of Musa alayhi salam, being tortured by people of Fir'aun, he would command his soldiers to torture them with variety of punishments and variety of tools. Sometimes he will command them, this year we are going to kill all the male children, just we will leave the female children. The variety of punishments. Subhanallah. So Musa alayhi salam said to his people, when Pharaoh told, and I am going to do the same, then Musa alayhi salam said, oh people, seek help from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and be patient. And during the time of Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, when he began his da'wah in Makkah, what happened? What was the situation of Muslims? You know, when Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam was given prophethood, the whole planet, there was no one to say even Allah, Allah. This whole planet, this whole globe, earth, the world was filled with mushrikeen. There was nobody to say even Allah, Allah. That is the situation Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam as prophet. Then slowly few people began to follow him. Those followers in the beginning were very big, except a few. Most of them were very weak and slaves and poor people. Because of their belief, they being tortured. Like Ammar bin Yasir. And Yasir, Ahla Yasir, the family of Yasir, his wife, Yasir's wife, Sumayya, radiyallahu anhu, they were being tortured because they were slaves. Abu Jahl will torture them every day with variety of punishments. Sometimes he will torture them with sticks, sometimes with knife, whatever he wish, he will do with them. And he would enjoy the punishments. Khuthba bin Arad radiyallahu anhu, he was being tortured. And Bilal bin Rabah radiyallahu anhu, he was being tortured by Umayyah bin Khalaf. He would torture them. Umayyah bin Khalaf, he would torture Bilal radiyallahu anhu. He would beat him, he would torture him with knife until he injured and the blood will flow. Then he would tie his legs, each leg with one of the rope. Then he would call the teenagers, boys, and he would call them to take one rope that is tied with the right leg and the other rope is tied with the left leg. He would ask them to raise each other in the opposite direction. They would just drag him on the grounds of the Makkah. His flesh and his blood is being mixed with the rocks of Makkah. This is how he was tortured. But what he was saying, Ahadun, Ahadun, the only one, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he is calling Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. At this situation, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam would go around these followers of Islam. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam cannot do anything. He can't do anything. He did not have any power. Only he would say, Sabran ya ala Yasir, fa inna maw'idakum al-jannah. Oh family of Yasir, be patient. Your promise is Jannah. Your appointment is Jannah. Be patient, your appointment is Jannah. This was he can do. Only during this punishment, Yasir radiyallahu anhu was killed. And Sumayya radiyallahu anha, she is the first woman and first martyr in the cause of Islam, for the cause of Islam. She is the first one, and she is the woman. She was martyred by Abu Jahl. He killed her with the arrow, and you know that he tortured her with he pushed on her private the abdomen, and it went into the private parts. She was killed. She was the first martyr in the cause of Islam, for the cause of Islam, and Yasir was killed. At this moment, Khuthba bin Arat radiyallahu anhu, he was being tortured. He came to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was sitting in Kaaba. Just he was sitting in the Kaaba, at the wall of Kaaba. He said, Khuthba bin Arat radiyallahu anhu, Ya Rasulullah, Allah tad'u lana, Allah tastansur lana. Oh, Ya Rasulullah, don't you ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, don't you ask for the help, don't you call Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for help? Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was leaning on the walls of Kaaba. The Rabi of Hadith says, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam sat straight, and his face became ahmar, red color, because he became angry. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, people before you, because of their iman, because of their faith, being tortured, that they will bring combs of steel, iron. You know, we have plastic comb. They would place knives one by one like a comb, and then their flesh will be combed from the bone until their bones, the whiteness of their bone will be shown. And they would bring a saw, and they will place between their head. They will put middle of their head, and they will be cut into two halves. But they will never leave their deen. They will never reject their deen. Subhanallah. This was the hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. It is not just beginning from the days of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. It was always the history. Even before Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, people who were believed being tortured, being humiliated. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam himself was humiliated. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was praying inside Kaaba, in the Haram. While he was making sujood, the leaders of Quraysh, they were challenging each other who is going to bring entrails of camel, you know, abdominal waste. When camel gives birth, there are some abdominal waste, the insides. Who is going to bring it and put on the head of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam? Among the worst of these Quraysh leaders, they brought the abdominal waste of the camel immediately, because there was just a camel was given birth. They brought and they put on the blessed shoulders of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He was in sujood. The blood and the tongue of the camel is mixed together, and it is flowing to his beard and on his shoulders, on his turban, on his head. He could not sit. He could not raise his head. If he raises his head, the remaining body will be affected by this dirt and filth. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he could not raise his head. The Rawi of Hadith, Abdullah bin Mas'ud radiyallahu anhu, says, he wished if there are some other Muslims so that he can go and help Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, but he could not help. He could not go alone. He could not do anything. The daughter of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Fatima radiyallahu anha, she was only 7 years old. She came and she took away all this dirt away from the body of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, blessed body of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Then only Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam could raise his head. You know, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he was a Rasul, should be honored the most. He is not just here. It's not like a teenage boy. He is already married. He has children. It is very, very hard for the children to see such things, being humiliated, their father being humiliated in front of their eyes. It is very hard for them. What he can do, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam? He raised his hands. He said, Allahumma, O Allah, alayka al-mala'u min Quraysh. O Allah, punish the leaders of Quraysh. Then he mentioned the names. Name of Abu Jahl, name of Khuthba bin Rabi'a, Shayba bin Rabi'a, Umayyah bin Khalaf. All the leaders of Quraysh he mentioned. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. But still, after this humiliation, after the punishments, after the believers, Muslims being tortured and killed, Allah's help did not come immediately. What happened? After this dua, after a few years, still Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam under persecution. The believers are under persecution. Then Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was exiled from Makkah. He was asking for the help from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. With our little knowledge, with our little experience, people who have weak iman might have thought at that time, instead of helping, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is punishing him more and more. People with weak iman, they just will leave their deen, their religion. They will just start following the mushrikeen al-kuffar. But it was not the case among the believers. Still they have the hope in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They have patience. Instead of helping, help comes from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was exiled because they were plotting to kill him. The more danger is coming to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He was exiled. Then after a few years, whomever Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala asked to punish those names, all being killed in the battle of Badr. It took few years. But still, Muslims are living under persecution in Makkah and other places. It took 10 years. When Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam entered Makkah, Fatha Makkah, when Makkah was opened, you see, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave great victory. How many years it took? 10 years. Around 10 years. Then the same Bilal bin Rabah radiyallahu anhu, who was humiliated in Makkah, who was humiliated around the grounds of Makkah, who was dragged around the Makkah, roads of Makkah. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam commanded him to climb on the Kaaba, the most holiest place on this planet. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam commanded him to climb on the Kaaba to give the first adhan in Makkah. The leaders of Quraysh, they were laughing each other. How come you see Muhammad, he is giving this black man slab, commanding him to climb on Kaaba, but they cannot do anything. But when they put the abdominal waist, entrance of camel on the shoulders of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, they were laughing. The Rawi of Hadith says they would fall on each other, right and left, because of their laughter. They would laugh, but they were being humiliated. But it took years and years. It did not come immediately. It did not come one day after or after a week. No, it took years. So same thing I would like to mention here. In the ayah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did not say وَالْعَاقِبَةُ لِلْمُسْلِمِينَ. End result belongs to the Muslims. Because Muslims, whomever can call himself Muslim. People who were born to a Muslim family, they call themselves Muslims. I am Muslim, I am following Islam. But Allah did not say Muslims. Allah says, وَالْعَاقِبَةُ لِلْمُتَّقِينَ. Who has taqwa, who has patience, who has strong iman, who has faith in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they will have end result. They will have end result. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in Surah Yusuf, Yusuf alayhi salam was thrown into that well, right? He was exiled. he must have asked Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, "Oh Allah, help me and join me with my family, my father and my mother." He must have asked Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But after a day, Yusuf alayhi salam was sold as a slave. He was in Sham, Syria, Palestine. But when he was asking dua for the help of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he was removed far away from Sham. He went to Egypt. He was sold as a slave and he went to Egypt. More suffering. When he is asking for dua, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for help, he was going away and away from his father. When he was patient, when that ladies tried to deceive him, then he was protecting himself for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but he was thrown into jail. But it was patience. After years and years, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave victory to Yusuf alayhi salam. But it came through patience, trials and tribulations. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will test our iman, our faith, our taqwa, how we are behaving. If we have strong faith, if we have patience, if we have hope in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, if we never give up our hope in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the victory will come. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَالْعَاقِبَةُ لِلْمُتَّقِينَ. The end result belongs to the muttaqeen. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in Surah Yusuf, حَتَّى إِذَا اسْتَيْأَسَ الرُّسُلُ وَظَنُّوا أَنَّهُمْ قَدْ كُذِبُوا جاءهم نصرنا فنجي من نشاء ولا يرد بأسنا عن القوم المجرمين. حتى إذا استيأس الرسل. Until the messengers of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they became desperate. وَظَنُّوا أَنَّهُمْ قَدْ كُذِبُوا. Until they started thinking that the people are falsifying the prophets, calling the prophets as liars. You have lied. The promise of Allah is coming, victory of Allah is coming, that you have lied. أَنَّهُمْ قَدْ كُذِبُوا. They are now desperate. جَاءَهُمْ نَصْرُنَا. At that moment, help of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, assistance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala came to them. فَنُجِّيَ مَنْ نَشَاءُ. Allah says, we would save whomever we will. We would rescue whomever we will. وَلَا يُرَدُّ بَأْسُنَا عَنِ الْقَوْمِ الْمُجْرِمِينَ. But al-mujrimin, the criminals, they cannot escape from the punishment of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It will come. But it requires, the patience and perseverance is required from us. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants us to be patient. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants to test our patience. So inshallah we will continue our khutbah after start أقول قولي هذا أستغفر الله لي ولكم إنه هو الغفور الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين والعاقبة للمتقين ولا عدوان إلا على القوم الظالمين. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبد الله ورسوله صلوات الله وسلامه عليه. بلغ الرسالة وأدى الأمانة ونصح الأمة وكشف الله به الغمة وجاهد في الله حق جهاده وتركنا على المحجة البيضاء ليلها كنهارها لا يزيغ عنها إلا كل هالك. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما صليت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد. Respected brothers and sisters, as we are living and situation around us, as we discussed, around the world is against us now. We see our deen being humiliated, being tortured, people are being killed. Now what is the solution? Let us go back to the history. As we thought, this is the greatest lessons we have in front of our eyes, is lessons from our Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. How he was being humiliated, how his followers being humiliated, killed and tortured, and in the end, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave greatest victory. That victory is in front of our eyes. Without the help of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, these nomads, Bedouins, Mecca and Quraysh and all these people in the Medina, Sahaba radiyallahu anhum, they used to be nomads, Bedouins. There was no standing army. They were not well trained. They did not have weapons. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave victory. Why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave victory to them, success to them? Because they were good believers, they were muttaqin, they were keeping God against evil, sin. And they were calling people to do good deeds. They were encouraging, advising each other to do good deeds, righteous things. They were preventing others or discouraging others from evil deeds. Because of this only Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave victory to them. If we follow them, wallahi, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will give us victory. Allah will give us success. Allah will give us success in this dunya. Allah will give us success in the akhirah. We should not be just as Muslims by name. We should be muttaqeen. Because Allah says, وَالْعَاقِبَةُ لِلْمُتَّقِينَ. The best end, the good end belong to muttaqeen. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, we would save whomever we will. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَكَانَ حَقًّا عَلَيْنَا نَصْرُ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ. It is incumbent upon us to help the believers. Not only just Muslims by name, no. We have to be believers and muttaqeen. Then we will see victory of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, success of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in this dunya and in the akhirah. So this is the situation we have to apply on ourselves. How we are behaving, whether we are following Islam, whether we are following the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala every day, in the morning and the evening, whether we are keeping away from haram, whether we are encouraging others to do good deeds. Let us examine ourselves whether we are inside the deen or outside our deen. If we are inside the deen, Allah is going to give us victory, but we will see. We have to be patient. So let us apply what we listen from this ayat. May Allah give us tawfiq to obey what we hear from the Quran and Hadith. اللهم اغفر لنا ذنوبنا وكفر عنا سيئاتنا وتوفنا مع الابرار. اللهم اجعلنا ممن يستمعون القول فيتبعون احسنه. اللهم اغفر لنا ذنوبنا وكفر عنا سيئاتنا وتوفنا مع الابرار. اللهم اغفر للمسلمين والمسلمات والمؤمنين والمؤمنات. اللهم انصر اخواننا المستضعفين في كل مكان. اللهم انصر اخواننا المجاهدين في سبيلك في كل مكان. اللهم انصر اخواننا المستضعفين في كل مكان. اللهم انصر اخواننا المستضعفين في كل مكان يا ذا الجلال والاكرام. اللهم ارحمنا يا ارحم الراحمين. اللهم انك عفو كريم تحب العفو فاعف عنا. اللهم انك عفو كريم تحب العفو فاعف عنا. اللهم انك عفو كريم تحب العفو فاعف عنا. صلى الله على سيدنا محمد النبي الامي وعلى اله وصحبه وسلم. ان الله يأمر بالعدل والإحسان وإيتاء ذي القربى وينهى عن الفحشاء والمنكر والبغي يعظكم لعلكم تذكرون. أقيموا الصلاة.